Hello, my name is Mrs. Robinson, and I work over in the high school at the district office, and I'm excited to be reading to you today. I'll be reading chapters 87 through 93. Chapter 87, The Smell of Walnuts and Honey. I did what any dog would do. I followed my nose. I stayed away from scary smells like cigarette smoke and spoiled meat, and I hopped toward good smells like dumplings and deviled eggs. My nose led me to a restaurant that smelled of beef and broccoli and orange chicken. I curled up near the door, which was warm from the restaurant kitchen, and slept. When I woke up, a man with kind eyes and gentle hands was kneeling down next to me. He smelled of walnuts and honey. "Poor thing," he said. "You come with me." I followed him to his car. He turned on the heater, and soon it was warm and toasty. I nuzzled his leg. He checked my collar. There were no tags. The dog sitter's boyfriend had made sure of that. But my name was embroidered on my collar. "What a love you are, Chance. I wish I could take you home with me, doggy," he said. "But my landlord won't let me have any pets." He took a long time petting me, like he really didn't want to stop. And then he clicked on his seatbelt and drove me to Dogtown. We arrived just before closing. Front desk was locking up. I found her outside of the restaurant. She's a sweetheart. He set me down at front desk's feet. "You'll take good care of her?" "We'll do our best," said front desk. He gave me one last pat, then turned and walked away. Chapter 88, Wondering. I knew the dog sitter and her boyfriend wouldn't be looking for me. But every day I wondered if Jessie and Professor Bresser would come back from their sabbatical and search for me. Day after day, week after week, month after month, they didn't come, and my heart broke all over again. After a while, it was too painful to wonder anymore. Chapter 89, No. "Now do you believe I know how you feel?" I asked Metalhead. Metalhead nodded. Mouse did too. He knew most of the story already. Even so, he pulled a piece of toilet paper off the roll in the trunk and dabbed at his face. "So come with us," I said. "No," said Metalhead, closing his eyes. Chapter 90, The Mind of a Metal Dog. I didn't know what else to say. I'd always been successful getting boo-hoos to move on. And that was without telling them my own boo-hoo story. I'd pulled out all the stops with Metalhead, and it had made no difference at all. Maybe he couldn't relate to a real dog story. Or maybe, once a robot dog's mind was made up, he couldn't change it. Metal is not a flexible material. I was considering my next steps when Mouse tapped my leg and motioned for me to follow him. There wasn't much room in the trunk, packed as it was. I climbed over a yoga mat and some hockey sticks to where Mouse was digging in a donation box. He pulled up the hard corner of something. I thought maybe it was a manual, something to help us understand our metal friend. But it wasn't a manual. It was green eggs and ham. Chapter 91, Reading Buddy. I dragged the book to Metalhead. "Metalhead, look! It was in the donation box. Jimmy's done with it. We can take it to Quinn." "Quinn was suspended," he said. "Right, but you know what suspended means." "Temporary removal of a student," he said in his droned voice. "Yeah, temporary. You know how excited Quinn was when you read to him. He'll be back." Metalhead nodded. His expression hadn't changed, but his blue lights began to flash brighter. I leaned in. What if he returns to Reading Buddies and his book still isn't there? He might throw a fit. Do you want him to get suspended again? Metalhead shook his head, a tiny motion, more like a tremor than a shake. You have to bring the book back to Quinn. You can deliver it, he said. But I can't read Green Eggs and Ham to Quinn. He doesn't understand dog. You're his reading buddy. He doesn't want anybody else. I want to be home with Jimmy. This was a tough one. What could I say to that? I thought for a long time before I opened my mouth. You did your job. You helped Jimmy grow up. I paused, letting this sink in. It's Quinn who needs you now. Chapter 92, Flashing Lights. Metalhead wasn't totally convinced, but all his lights were flashing extra bright. The blue, the white, and the bright yellow. I suspected that meant his steel heart was beating again. It didn't take much more to persuade him to return to Dogtown with us. He had just climbed on top of the donation box when we heard the footsteps. Chapter 93, In the Trunk. Jimmy's mom stomped to the trunk. I thought for sure she'd notice us. We were right there in plain sight. But she didn't look closely. I could have sworn I shut this, she said, and slammed the trunk shut. Bang, and the world went dark. Thank you for letting me read to you today. I hope you enjoyed it.